Hi students, hope you all are doing well. I am Asad Kothari and you are watching this video. If you are really willing to give your O-level examination, then that is what would have brought you to this video, right? And the exams are near and you must be preparing well. And this video will help you to focus on structuring your answers well in paper 1 and paper 2 of business O-level examinations. And you must be wondering that what this video is going to teach you. So let me just summarize it before you just watch this video. Let me just tell you that by the end of this video, you will be able to understand that how to structure your answers well in paper 1 and paper 2. Because uh, if even if you have a lot of knowledge, even if you have learned the entire book, but if you don't know how to structure your answers well, you might not be able to get the best grade that you are actually hoping for. So there are two papers, right? Paper 1 and paper 2. There is a different thought process for each paper. We are going to talk about each paper one by one. Let's first talk about paper 1. Paper 1 is we are going to use this October-November 2023 variant number 12, and you can see it on your screen. And you must have seen our other videos in which we are actually talking about the structure and the time management stuff. But this video is going to tell you about how to think when you write an answer, right? A lot of students have been commenting on our videos that how to have that mindset or a frame of mind when writing the answers. So this is what is going to happen. So if you see questions in paper 1, if you see paper 1, then there are 4 questions, right? I'm just going to use this question number 1 for the reference of how to think about the answers. And there's a case. Okay, so Paolo wants to start up a business making cakes. He plans to sell all of his products to a wholesaler. Paolo knows the packaging for his products will be important. Okay, he's selling cakes. He feels like the packaging will be, obviously for cakes, packaging is really important. And he has prepared some financial and sales data. An extract from this data is shown in table 1.1. Paolo is considering using crowdfunding as a source of finance. He knows the business will also need working capital. Okay, and now there is an extract in which we have been given the average price, the average cost, and the forecasted average number of cakes sales per day, basically. Okay. Now, in paper 1, each question will have 5 parts, right? This part A, define working capital. This will always be 2 marks, and this will always ask you to define some keyword. Now, when you're writing the definition, some of the most common blunders, one of the biggest blunder is that people would just write an English description. You don't need to write just a basic English description. You have to write a proper business definition. There's a difference between a business definition and an English description. You need to write a business definition. Okay, you don't need to have like a very high quality English. The marks is not for grammar, the marks are not for punctuation or stuff. But when you're defining a word, when you're defining, let's say, working capital or any other word that might just come in, you have to use the business terminologies, okay, related to working capital. This is the finance that a business needs for the day-to-day or the running expenses, the revenue expenditures. Try to use the keywords when writing the definition, and that will help you get 2 out of 2 if you have the right high quality definition, not a basic English description. Okay. And for part B is also of 2 marks, as you see on the screen right now. This part B is asking you to calculate the average cost, and try to write the proper formula if there is some calculation, and try not to use one word answers. A lot of students make this mistake. They just write one word answer. They just directly write the answer. Don't do that. Properly write sentence, properly show the workings, properly show the formula, and then do your question. This is an easy 2 marker. Don't lose it. Don't lose it, these 2 markers, because these really value. Okay. And part C in paper 1 will always be 4 marker, right? Always be 4 marker. And if you see this on the screen, it's asking you to outline 2 reasons why packaging will be important for Paolo's business. So you have to write 2 reasons, and there are 4 marks in total, and this means that 2 marks each, right? So reason 1 will get you 2 marks, and reason 2 will get you 2 marks. And when you're writing this 4 marker, so it's not a very difficult question. It's just asking you why packaging will be important. Why packaging will be important for cakes. The best way would be, I could think about the business and I could be like, okay, why is it important? Because it adds value, it promotes, it protects the product, it fulfills a legal requirement. There are a lot of points, right? Write that point which you can explain well. do not just try to be over smart. All right, don't try to be over smart and be like, oh, I'm going to come up with a point that no one would have thought of and something stuff like that, right? No, no, you need to think of that point which you can explain well, which you can, whatever point you write. Let's say if I write that packaging will add value for Paolo's business, right? If I write this point, I need to explain it well. And in order to explain it, I can have two questions in my mind. What do you mean by this point? And why this point is an answer to this question. What do you mean by this point? That it will add value to the Paolo's business? And why this point is an answer to this question? Why will it be important? These two questions help you frame one of the best answers you can ever think of. So whatever point you write, whatever reason you write, you try to think of two questions. Okay, what do I mean by this point? Ask yourself maybe, what do I mean by this point? And then why this point is an answer to this question. Okay, so when you think of these two questions, the answers that just pop into your head will be basically an explanation. And again, general rule of thumb is that these lines, the given lines, should generally feel like that, oh, there's not enough space. If I was a student, I would be like, oh, these 4 lines are not enough to write just one reason. I'll have to adjust my answer. Sometimes you might feel like that, and that's a completely normal feel. Because if you are a very high quality student, if you have practiced past papers, if you have been following our sessions and past paper classes and stuff like that, so that will just give you the feel that this space is not enough. This space is, if you get the feeling that these lines are not enough, and I have to adjust it somehow, adjust my answer somehow, that's a completely normal feel, and that's a good feel to have when preparing for your paper one. Okay, and the part D of paper one is a 6 marker. And in this 6 marker, again, it's asking you to explain one advantage and one disadvantage to Paulo's business of using crowdfunding as a source of finance. So now again, you have to write an advantage, then explanation, disadvantage, and explanation. Okay. Again, do not write one word answers. Do not write one word advantage or one word disadvantage. Don't do that mistake. Okay. Write a proper sentence and then explain it. Explanation will give you, like, because there are 2 lines for advantage. 2 lines mean 1 mark. And then there are 4 lines for explanation. This means 2 marks for explanation. So you state the advantage properly. And then when you try to explain it, try not to brag too much. Try not to be over smart with that. Again, 2 questions should come into your head. What do you mean by that point, and why this point is an answer to this question? The answer to these 2 questions that are just coming into your head will give you the right quality of explanation. And at the point, there are no limits to the points. Trust me, there are like 5 to 6 advantages of crowdfunding. I'm not going to talk about the content right now. I'm just going to tell you how to think about the question, right? Because the questions could change. You will not get the same question. Do not just think about this question. The questions can change, the mindset cannot change. When you look at the D part in paper one, you will see that, okay, it will always be 6 marker, and I have to just not write one word answer. I have to write a complete sentence. And then when you write an explanation, you have to think of 2 questions. What do you mean by this point, and why this point is an answer to this question? And then the answers that you get is the explanation. Okay. and and try to use applications also. Try to, because the question is clearly asking about Paolo in part D, and the question was also asking about Paolo in part C. If it's specifically asking about the case, if it's specifically asking about Paolo, you also have to apply your answers. You also have to use the information from the case. You have to see the numbers, the extract, what they do. Let's say if I write cakes, if I use the selling price that is given in the extract, I have to refer back to the case also, basically, to make my answers of very high quality. Okay. And the last part E of paper one, is also of 6 mark. And there are 2 types of 6 markers in paper one, basically the E parts. Sometimes the E parts are very generic, are very general. It asks you the question in general. It doesn't refer to the case. And for that particular question, you will not have any application marks. If the question is general, let's say if you see this question, this part E, is asking, like, do you think selling to a wholesaler is the best channel of distribution for a startup business to use? Now it's asking about a startup business. It's not asking about Paolo, right? If it's asking about a startup business, uh, this means that it's not asking about Paolo. This is not the question related to the case. This is the question which is a generic question. And if it is a generic question, then you don't need to refer back to the case. That's a new thing that is happening in paper one. If it would have been asking me about Paolo, if the question would have mentioned that why use of wholesaler would be the best decision for Paulo, then I will have to refer back to the case. But if it is a general question like this one, then I can also write a very general answer. It's all right. And again, this is of 6 marks. You will be given 12 lines. For every 1 mark, there are 2 lines. If you count these lines, there will be 12 lines. And it's 6 marker. And ideally, I should be writing a point in favor, a point against, and then my opinion. 1 point in favor, explain it. 1 point against, explain it, opinion, and justify it. Okay, it's like state your point, you get 1 mark. You explain that point, you get 2nd marks. You state the counterpoint, you get 3rd mark. You explain the counterpoint, 4th mark. You give your opinion and then you give your justification. So now that is how your answer would look like when you attempt part E. And generally, it's a two-sided answer, and then your opinion would be based on your own understanding and evaluation, obviously. And obviously, this comes with practice. I'm just telling you the structure overall so you understand how to think about it. But overall, you will have to practice these questions more, obviously, if you have to get hold of these techniques that I'm talking about. And these are the same techniques that goes for entire paper 1. And the techniques would just repeat itself. The questions would change, the requirements would change, the case studies would change, but the mindset won't change. The questions would, you get the point, right? You should understand how to think about the questions, and I hope that you will be able to get hold of it and get good grip of it. And that's how you think of answering in paper 1. And if you see question in paper 2 is quite different than paper 1, by the way. Paper 2 will have like 4 questions, right? As I talked about in my previous videos. But the difference is that in paper 2, now if you see paper 2 on your screen, it's October, November 2023, variant number 22. And the case that we are using is sports safety equipment. And if I see the question paper, if I show you the question paper of this case, see this question 1, part A. This is like explain 2 advantages of using specialization when producing SSE's products. To be very honest, yes, it is difficult to structure answers in paper 2. Yeah, it is difficult. It is not easy. You will have to practice. Even if you are watching this video, you will, after this video, you'll have to practice it more. But for the mindset, for the best mindset when answering this 8 marker, is that you have to make sure that you do not write one word answer. And if you see here, you have like 2 lines for advantage 1, and then you have like 6 lines for explanation, which means you have 1 mark for advantage 1, and then you have 3 marks for explanation, right? So whatever point you write, whatever advantage you write of specialization is when an employee is actually an expert of what they do, right? When you make an employee so expert that they are very efficient, they give you good quality, they give you good ideas. So there are a lot of advantages, but you just have to write any one advantage that you like, state it properly, and when you explain it, try to again think of 2 questions. What do you mean by this point? Why this point is an answer to this question? Let's say if I'm writing specialization will help employees to give me good ideas, then what do you mean? Because as they would be specialized, they would know better stuff, they might be better in the jobs, and they might just come up with better ideas. As a result, we might be able to come up with new type of helmets, and we might be able to come up with different type of productivity improvements, right? You can, what do you mean, and why this point is an answer to this question. These are the 2 questions that would just give you the hint on how to well express your thoughts. Okay. And ideally, in these 8 markers, you should refer back to the case. You must refer back to the case. You must refer back to the sports. You must refer back to the helmets. You must refer back to the situation, right? You have to tell that how specialization will be useful for SSE's products, specifically asking you the question. And if you do not refer back to the case, if you're not able to talk about the business, then this will not give you a high quality mark. That's for sure, right? Even if you write the perfect book, and even if you write the page number that this is or the concept on page number this of the book, examiner don't care. What examiner would care is whether your answer shows the real understanding that you understand this business and you're talking to this business, right? So there are no best answers. Remember that there are no right or wrong answers. Every student can come up with a very different answer. And when I read the answers of my students, if I have like say 40 students in my class, 40 of them would just come up with a very different answer, and 40 of them could get an A star, right? Because every student can have a very different answer. You don't need to match your answers with anyone else. You just need to compare your answers to yourself, and obviously you will improvise over time. And if you see the B part is 12 marker. It's again an extensive question. And I really like these questions, but students generally do not like such questions because probably you have to write a lot, you have to think about it, and you have to practice it, obviously. But part B is always of 12 marker, and these 12 marker, as you see now, this question it's asking about consider the advantages and disadvantages of the following two methods of market research SSE could use when entering new markets in other countries. So SSE is planning to enter into some new country and they're willing to do some market research. And now the question is giving me 4 marks for primary market research, 4 marks for secondary market research, and 4 marks for my recommendation. I'm saying it 4 marks because the total is 12 marks and it has already divided into 3 parts. See, the 12 marker will be divided. We'll have some sort of this question is like primary, secondary, and recommendation. So it will always be divided in some sort of parts. So now I don't need to write like too many points. I guess if I'm writing about primary market research, like how would primary market research help SSE, or the advantages and disadvantages. So maybe I can write one advantage of primary market research, explain it, one disadvantage of primary market research, explain it. Then in the secondary market research part, I can write one advantage of secondary market research, explain it, one disadvantage of secondary market research, explain it. And then in my recommendation, this recommendation is a very, 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 very crucial thing. It carries 4 marks. You have to give your opinion that what do you think is the best way to enter into the new markets. What method would be the most suitable one, primary or secondary? What's your opinion? Opinions can never be wrong. Opinions are always right, but you will have to give your opinion and you will have to justify your opinion in this recommendation part, right? You'll have to tell SSE that for you primary is better, for you secondary is better, whatever your opinion is, but this is your opinion, and then you'll have to justify it. You'll have to justify it according to the case study, according to the situation of the business. That for, let's say I say that, okay, go for primary market research because you have been operating for so many years and it's a very strategic decision. And if you go for a new country and if it fails, then it could just create a lot of problems. And you're already doing so well in your original home country. Maybe you just talk about the business, whatever the business is. There is no, again, uh, there is no recommendation written in the book. You will have to think of it in the business exam only. When you are in an exam, when you are writing recommendation, that is the only time you can be thinking of the recommendation. You cannot learn it by heart. You cannot learn it from home, obviously, right? Because every business case would be different. The point of writing recommendations and opinions are that what your opinion is as a student and what justification is there which led to you make that opinion, right? So that is how you think when writing recommendations. And again, in the last one point, that uh, obviously the questions are thoughtful, the questions are tough, the questions are not very easy, and it's completely normal to have a tough exam because obviously you guys are giving a Cambridge level O level examination, and that's like uh, a lot of hundreds and thousands, hundreds of years of experience, right? Of a lot of examiners and uh, a lot of people who have set this exam, right? So you don't just see that the exam should be easy. Exam will be tough, a bit tough, and you will find some difficult questions, but that's completely all right? Because you don't need to attempt like 100 you if even if you like you cannot get 100% marks, right? You will get some sort of difficulties, you will find some sort of questions that are tough, and you might just face that struggle when writing the answer, but that's completely all right. The more you practice, the more it becomes your natural instinct. So you have to invest time in practicing the writing skills. So yeah, I hope that this video is useful for you because it helps you to understand that how to think about and how to structure your answers in O level business paper 1 and paper 2. And we have been trying to create a lot of videos for O levels and A levels business examination, and we hope that you are liking the content, and we hope that you're enjoying and learning from our videos. And if you feel like that there is any room for improvement, then do let us know in the comment section below. And we wish you best of luck for your upcoming examination. Keep working hard, and bye bye. Thank you for watching.